Yeah.
Nayanati Meryan Zolis Nazu Lil Hulilon. And any recent impressions about those 5 symbols that we see on this piece of wood that I painted are the chant?
Yes. The autumn equinox, the day and night are equal in length, a perfect balance of dark and light. Um, it's like saying goodbye to long summer days and welcoming the golden season in. That brings me to think about rejuvenation and repair. Like, after a long summer, where I'm sure years ago in the summer times meant a lot more work for people in certain areas. They would prepare for the winter time. So, harvesting and all that, that was, hard work. Work in the fields, gathering food, putting that food to survive the long winters. So it's like this could be a time to repair our bodies, rejuvenate our health. So yeah, that's a good idea.
So one word, of course, that we have there is zalas or zolis, and that's the word for water. And lil is the word for black or moon. And you said that you've made 5 separate little pieces with the symbols.
Yeah.
What one notices, like for example, the 8 armed swastika thing, so the 8 points of the year, that's what I think. So the cycle of that moving. But
Hmm.
blue makes you, I mean, it's not really a water wheel, but you kind of think of it more as a water wheel. But if it was a different color, um, and
I like this one. I don't know why I did it in certain colors, but this one I did in black and pink. I don't know why I used pink. I just felt like pink
well,
incorporates
obviously
some pink.
the moon and the star symbol. It also in Arabic the curve and the dot form the letter Z, which its name, the Zain, or in some dialects is the word for sword. So it kind of fits in with that well enough. But here, red and green is the colors that came through as the ideal. But
Hmm.
whichever works, it's like one can. Oh, I'm still trying. I'm trying to figure out some of the words here. But yeah, one can use different colors. I just um, because the crossed over swords in the middle and stuff like that might have different particular things. So the first verse translated here, of course, I'm gonna do the full language in my actual ceremony. I'm not sure if that's going to be on film or not. It's whatever. I'll talk about it. But so Genesis 16:7. An angel of God, it's a noun and verb, found her by a spring of water in the wilderness, the spring on the road to Shur. And so the context is Hagar's. So Hajar with the Arabic. So sure, it was Western Arabia, there's a spring, and the Book of Psalms says it's also Western Arabia. There's a well and spring, and it's in Hagarite territory and all that stuff. But it's very, very rich in minerals, but that's not really the point. The point is that they got water when they needed it, and it's a refreshment for people who've come out there to do their pilgrimages and all that stuff. So, there's that sort of water. And feel free to add your own comment at any time with these. There's 7 of these left that was sharing.
Speaking of water, I just went yesterday and I to my little spring where I get my drinking water. And when I was filling up my water jugs, I noticed a black woolly worm. And around here, it's like an old saying that if the woolly worms, they're usually brown and black, but this makes the second one I saw that all of it was black, which means, according to the old timers, a bad winter.
Well,
So I looked
we do know that they released the numbers for August, and August is the month that had the versus last the numbers for August. The temperature is 1/5 of a degree Celsius less in the world than it was in the 70s. Over 50 years of global warming, as much as they've complained about it, have been erased in the past year. The ice buildup in the Arctic is the greatest that's been seen in 200 years. I mean, the most rapid and the earliest in like 200 years of looking at the ice up there. And so Jeremiah 17:18. Of course, in this language, you don't pronounce any Y's. You also don't pronounce any V's. It's a W. It's a Y instead of a. But anyways, oh hope of the strivers, of the power of establishing all who forsake, ye shall be put to shame. Those in the land who turn from you shall be doomed men, and they shall have forsaken. God is a noun and verb. The fount of living waters.
living waters.
But remember I'm working on my Golden Dawn Tarot series, and if I put my hand behind me, it doesn't want to show unless there's a human. It knows. But in that deck, you have the Golden Dawn style decks. You definitely have the Fountain of Water, and there's all this stuff in a lot of tarot decks that like implies like the spine. So there, I can't help but feel, but think that a lot of this symbolism that we're having listed there is directly along those lines. Of it's a consciousness thing, but the suit of water is definitely of a consciousness thing. And after these 7 verses are talked of, but there's stuff that you can get from different sources, whether it's been however it's been passed on or whatever. But there's sometimes stuff that just doesn't remain in anything else. So 14:8 and 9. In that day, fresh water shall flow from Jerusalem, part of it to the eastern sea and part to the western sea throughout the summer and winter. Oh, and the one before that. But there shall be a continuous day. Only God as a noun and verb knows when, of neither day nor night. And there shall be light at eventide. So things going on at night, either artificially or some sort of whatever. You heard the thing about Betelgeuse. Is that how you pronounce it? Betelgeuse, that big old star in the corner of the one part of Orion?
Oh, hadn't.
For all we know, it's already gone supernova, and it's only a matter of time before we actually see it. And it can become brighter than the moon at night for most of the lunar month, if not the entire lunar month. And wow. It literally, it's going to be some weird stuff that's only seen every 25,000 years or something. We're going to talk about it. Whether our civilization stays together or not, we're going to talk about it for a long time, right? And also, and also these deserts that turn to water and stuff like this. Antarctica might 38.5 feet. 38.5 feet. That volcano going off could raise the sea level 38.5 feet. And they're thinking anytime 10 feet of it can go at once. But it's not global warming because it's 20, it was 20 below, not too everywhere as the high not too long ago. So, and some of that area never gets above freezing. So it can't be, but that's what they want everybody to think. It's everything's warming, whether it is or not. If it's global cooling for 3 years in a row, global warming's going to kill us all. We swear.
They tell people lies when in reality something
I'm going to
else
be, and
is
I
going
guess we
on.
got to change the way we're talking. But the, fine, whatever the climatologists or actual geologists are telling us. But the narrative is not the same thing as the science, you could say. Theories require facts, but I don't like the way they say it on that television show. Ancient alien theorist. They say it like the guy reading it doesn't believe it. Isaiah 12:3, joyfully ye shall draw water from the fountains of triumph. So rather than resisting and not actually completing your work, one's definitely getting into actually finishing those things oneself. Okay. Because this vicarious thing, it's my tribe or it's some savior that's going to do things. See, if people read their Bible more, they wouldn't fall for some of the doctrines they hear in their buildings. Or they'd see some of this messed up stuff and says, I don't know if I'm going to go to that extra effort because this stuff about bashing the infants into rocks and stuff, I'm not trusting the group of people that put that into a scripture. And then it tells you don't trust the Cohens and the rabbis, ha-kahanim as they're called. But anyways, Ezekiel 47:9. Every living creature that swarms will be able to live where the stream goes. The fish will be very abundant once these waters have reached there. It will be wholesome, and everything will live where the stream goes. But that don't you think that kind of sounds like maybe it's something metaphysical? Like maybe it's referring to some other type of life than just some stream that's all wandering everywhere.
Yeah. Even go back to the living waters. There's more meanings than what you
and there's
think.
semantics and stuff that a person could possibly look into and all that. But it's like for some reason, like every other Bible translation has ignored the stuff about unicorns. It obscures the mention of the jinn or the Davas or the asuras or fire beings or fairies or whatever you want to call them. It obscures some of those references, or vampires and I think there's even mermen in the Bible, mer people. I think there's a phrase that can be rendered like that, and it's like this is some cool mythology. I don't. You people should translate it clearly.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
But people, but that passage in the Bible, the whole. Thank you, God, for saving me from the unicorns and the lions. I understand the lions, but the unicorns, really? And then you find out what that really means. It's like, oh, unicorns are not just some cute horsey things. And, there's some giant, monstrous, mountainous sort of spirits. And you're like, okay, that's kind of understandable. And so Proverbs 10:11, the mouth of righteousness is a fountain of life, but the lawlessness covers the mouth of the wicked. Now, okay, let me double check the word here. Yep, tzaddik. So tzaddik and some derivatives of that is Jupiter. So the Jupiter, it's not just righteousness. Oh, you better obey how we're supposed to tell you to obey, right? It's actually the Jupiter principle, whichever things fall under that. Which, like, for example, people are doing wealth magic. It's not just a Venus thing. Venus is probably the last category that you would want to use. in terms of the wealth, because Mercury, you know, you make it fluid. The moon, you want to change. You know, the sun, there's of course gold and all that. The moon would be silver, so and certain jewels and stuff too. So I mean, not that you just lay down something sympathetic and everything's answered that way, but I think we have numbers 2117. And the thing about these things being used for centuries or even thousands of years means there's sort of this egregoric effect of it. But there's of course certain doctrines that I don't want to say, like we shall rejoice in, you know, that's passage I talked about earlier, or one of those things when I circle that church talking about basically terrorism in the Bible. Okay. And then the upright of divinity sang this song, spring up, oh well, sing to it. Oh, that's interesting. So numbers 2117 is one of those consecration sort of things, right? So that's it with the verses that I had selected. So those were what might be called the black verses. And you said you don't have your. Am I showing up again?
Yeah, I can see you.
Okay.
I see you now. That's the first time I've seen you. Hey.
So I'm going to write a series on this deck, and particularly that since that's something we can talk over. I'm trying to do 3 series, so over the course of the year, how much of whatever one wants to do, there'll be plenty of stuff that's recorded in that thing. So we're looking at oh, I don't have the cards in order for whatever, so I'm so did you say you had any experience or particular impression when you dedicated your
yes, things such as recharge, feed come to me, you know, to continue harvesting. Without darkness, what purpose would there be to the light? You know, constant light all the time. There needs to be breaks, you know, in that. Transformation, big time change. You know, much work equals much result. But even minimum work may not get you much result at all. Well, I mean, for me. The full moons seem brighter, you know, in the dark in winter time.
Now, do you see this closerly here? Maybe put closer to my face.
Let's see. My screen is small, but I see it a little bit.
So I'll look myself. So Mather Bandia Ir. Maybe that's how you say it, but it's you know it's the mother card. So you have a stone hut sort of thing, or maybe it's a cairn, maybe it's a graveyard. Yeah, this looks like a graveyard, but the mother's outside of it. The mother's covered in all these plants. Like, was it that Stranger Things? What was that show that had the skeleton that told the weird stories?
The Tales from the Crypt.
I saw a DVD, but I never saw the series on TV. Maybe I just didn't have cable or something.
It may have been Tales from the Crypt.
So one of those was like some meteor comes down and this person gets covered in this rock, this stuff growing everywhere. So you see she's got the growth, but so since Thursday night is the night of this ritual, it's you know it's got the Venus thing going on there, and I am slowly but surely trying to find the other cards. This is sort of the wild card. So here's like an extra card, like the 0 of the 0 card, the tree itself. So you got the fool, but here's the system that the fool's like hinting at. So that's
Strong.
like an extra card there. And
Mm-hmm.
there's, you know, they kind of illustrate the tree on the trunk as the, and the, you know.
Trees can survive whether it's cold weather or hot weather. Trees are pretty cool in that way. They're strong.
And strength is the Leo card, right? So this one right here. So strength, and she's got a cave. The lions are on the cave, but it's a fair maiden, well dressed and whatnot. So it's now there's different definitions for this, but this is making me think it's a theme of chastity. Chastity isn't the same as celibacy. Chastity is the controlling one's desires according to the spiritual principles. In the Crowley card, you're like hands-on lust, and the results of working with your lust are the different heads on the card. So if you remember that card, and there's the moon, you know, because I've talked about the using of energy as sort of like the vampiric thing. So going out in the night and using the lunar light, or using the lunar light, connecting it to the stones on your windowsill and that sort of stuff. Although you don't want to have anything too valuable on your windowsill. Somebody goes by and they see a reason to smash the thing.
Yep.
And so slowly but surely. And so the gift of the fairies one. So this time of year is, you know, you end up getting these nuts. Well, okay, I know that's going to be thought of out of context by somebody, but the you know, some the whole percentage points of the vote during the one election, during the presidential election primaries, you had candidates like that. But anyways, the hazelnut. So it's a musical instrument. That's the implication. And it's also like a wand, but you think of wands more as the fire card, but you know, maybe not necessarily. And
I think of it air.
And I forget, these have different names. So it's the first used tarot deck I got. And this is the Princess of Cups. And the Princess of Cups is the muse. Aside from other stuff, it's the muse. It's the prize, but not the, you know, you kind of not quite confined to this idea of some tournament that a winner shall marry my daughter whether she likes it or not. But you know, she's obviously, you know, the daughter that wanders outside the castle because it's like, I'm sick of the guards and I've left the guards, but she's still decent, and she's still wholesome and all that stuff. So and I would have got, maybe even bought an etching tool with it. I saw this brass vessel like that at some point, and it was like affordable, not like hundreds of dollars or something, but like, you know, like $20 or something. And it seemed like mint condition, and like, but I didn't prioritize getting it, and I've moved and from that place, and yeah. So but I could have, that would have been a great ritual vessel carving, having one of those little etchers and etching symbols along the side, having like a Solomonic vessel or something. But that's just making me think of that. There's another card, you know, the rare, she's like paired with the other card, and the other card like is the great musician finding the one in a million swan of one color, and the hanged man. This is definitely executioner. This isn't some mystical feet hanging from a tree and stuff. This is like the executioner, making sure, and he's done a lot. So it's like, I don't know, more like him doing human sacrifice of anything, if that's like the message. But Well, the guy's still making the most of it. He's posing. He's posing. He doesn't seem to be totally bound, and yet he's doing a pose. And
Nowadays, everybody likes selfies, right?
people dying in volcanoes trying to take
Mhm.
selfies. Um,
And,
I mean,
oh,
literally, La Palma goes off. People fly across the world, and some of them die because they're. I want to take a closer picture of the edge.
get that shot.
Um.
A picture's worth 1,000 words, right?
Okay, and of course we got to have the ace. So every princess needs the ace. And here, there's a big old cut, but the thing is, it's like some palace, the imaginal realm, as it's called. But the imaginal realm, like for example in Arabic, particularly since this Noctulius Walken has the current that leads into the idea of the Arab stuff, if not the Islamic stuff, the Arab stuff definitely as sort of like a forbidden path, like that sets people off or something. But you have the imaginal realm or the realm of images, but that realm of images for the Sufi connects you to the existence of the Janut, the fire being realm. The demons are ones that choose from that. And you have the Malakut, the light being realm, so the unfallen, ungendered entities, and you have the Lahut, which is the direct divine manifestation, the real causal, but you don't really get the essence, you get the qualities. So every divine name or something's kind of into that. But you got the rainbow road, so like all the varieties of magic and all that stuff kind of lead up to this consciousness and experience that you're working with there. And so feel free to chime in. Okay, yeah, I am recording. I'm not sure at what point in the video that I am. And this deck, when I do share it, if we haven't exposed people to stuff already, it does have more nudity, but it's not like the Golden Dawn Magical Tarot, which is more like a 10-year-old drew the nudity. I mean, that sort of approach that a 10-year-old has, or maybe it's not 10 anymore because all the stuff is causing people to hit puberty too young.
Right.
Oh, and
I know.
as we're recording this video, the card is not, this is not the card we're going to refer to, but the 10. So it's another card with the rainbow, but older sense of a rainbow, not the sense that we use them now. And nowadays, if you can't use a rainbow without certain associations, but it's
Yeah.
the
I
pot
got
of gold, which is not really as strong of a myth as people might think, but there's the spirit. So there's a spirit with it. So see, it's a spiritual thing. You see the spiritual entity with that sort of thing going on. But okay, well,
I will be getting a certain tarot deck soon. I miss it. I can't believe I forgot my bag where
well,
I left it.
you got the one with it's not 3 magi, it's just 3 variations. You weren't really meant to. The Golden Dawn one, like you're supposed to like learn to decide between the two, and you take the one card out of the deck at one time and put it in at another time, and put the other one in. So the variations on the Temperance card. Aleister Crowley just said, nope, I want the one, and I'm leaving the other out. I think he should have merged them. I think that would have been best, but that's what him and Lady Freya Harris, Frida Harris wanted to do. So that's that's their thing.
I wonder who drew the very first tarot deck. Is it possible to even know the very first tarot deck
Well, there's certain
ever?
things that we can sort of guess. Like for example, the Golden Dawn one, the real one, the real original Golden Dawn deck is probably gone for good. There's descriptions of what to do and how the deck was, you know, and those are largely lost. So here's the two. Again, they're working in rainbows, but not in the gay way. But they're having
Right.
But then again, one thing I do want to make clear, since I said something like that, is like people have thoughts, they have feelings, they have emotions. I'm not criticizing that.
Right.
Now, some
Right.
of those some things, maybe you can't act them out. Maybe certain beliefs should not be had about them. But it's like, just because you had some thought or whatever. But you know how it is in Pauline
Yeah.
Christianity. You're not allowed philosophy. I don't remember the verses, but there are verses that actually literally ban philosophy, and there's no denying that that's literally what it says.
Well,
But and philosophy is not just quoting things too, because people are like stupid with that too. They're like, oh well, I'm not religious or anything. I just quote philosophers and musicians and this stuff. It's like, so you don't do philosophy yourself. You just amalgamate some sort of combination of somebody else's quotes. And
yeah.
that's what certain new age leaders and stuff like that do too. They don't really have original thought. They just do market research and figure out what will get them the thing. But the current, so the cauldrons are together, and the current, again, it's like a magical current going through. But there's the production of the tree, and there's air. So it's like everything's present. The moon and the sun you don't quite see, but the moon's there. But the sun's shining through. So it's like you have all the elements there at once. And do I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3? Okay, there's supposed to be like one card or something I haven't done. Oh, it's the king. The king of Earth. So if I
King of Earth.
this deck has different names.
Yeah.
Radir of
Oh.
Domhain. Is that the? No, that's got to be like, that's the prince. Banrion of Domhain. Yeah, I don't know. Particularly since it's nightfall. It's the nightfall of the year. You think of the solar year as, okay, here's the king. Here's that last card I was looking at, because we're I don't know how many minutes left, but we're in the less than 10-minute mark. So I painted this deck at some point. So I ended up damaging my cards to some extent because I handled them a bit more. Although it was people shuffle cards kind of roughly. I have trouble shuffling it. But anyways, it was a worth it deck because it's a deck I could learn with. So the King of Pentacles. I'll get into the story. I'll look up some of these names when I do my series on this. The guy's got something on the table. Maybe it's meat. He's got a cup on the table. He's sitting in his chair, but he's like getting ready to get up or something. So he's not too stationary. But maybe that's the problem. Is like he's
not satisfied.
There's a tent city. It's like the pentacle behind him. So but there's a shield too. But seeing it in different senses. So he's adorned and all that stuff. But it's an earth card and a king card. It kind of does make sense in that way. But the year. So if you think of it in terms of darkness, it's like, what is the fall equinox is the things are equal, but it's darkening. But it's actually the darkening moment. Darkness begins to increase is the cross quarter of August. Because that's when it starts gaining ground. But darkness actually begins to increase at the darkness gains a foothold. I forgot how I said all this stuff. So darkness increases at the summer solstice. Darkness gains a foothold at the August cross quarter. Darkness is on even footing, but it's become darkness is becoming dominant And the
Mhm.
darkness is totally darkness is almost completely dominant, and then darkness is totally dominant. But then, you know, darkness decreasing, darkness equal, darkness towards its least, and then darkness at its least. So but Lilith, if you remember, Lilith has been one of my mentions in the past. Well, I mean, there's a lot of stuff on my channel, but whatever. The Lilith has been one of those ones that are good for autumn equinox rituals. It's one of those
Mhm.
fitting ones. Also the 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 winter solstice. The winter solstice is a good time per se. And the four daughters and all that. Oh, yeah, particularly the four daughters myth. That sort of idea fits in well with the darker half of the year, but particularly the water mid. I'm rambling quite a bit there.
That's okay.
So 999 is a number of, you know, the flashing colors of the water quarter, which is from August 7th to November 7th, give or take a day. Blue and orange, you know, it would be maybe black and white for the other, and then it would be purple and yellow and green and red, you know, but the color there, it's also a good way to let people know. Like, I think that camouflaged everything when you're out hunting and other people hunt out there is a bad idea.
Yeah.
Like, I would understand if, like, if they ever passed the law that your guns can't be camouflaged, and because you're like out there, that's like, but
Yeah.
the 999, forget the nine triplicities of that whole thing. It's like something big is about to be accomplished, and that's one of the things inherent with this. Oh, now I see the time on the screen. Inherent with this number is you got you know, weapon of the night. Weapon of the night is, as you remember, the thing we saw with that graphic there. And so, well, that's you know, so the thing about that is, so something big is about to be accomplished, but you're doing the work. You're continually doing the work. If you're just like a weapon on the shelf, what's that? You know.
Yeah.
Work,
the more results.
And you see the crossing of the swords or the knives or something. It's like, well,
Yeah.
so peace can be maintained through the fact that the force is an option. So that's part of what's implied with that crossed swords thing, which is not really like Saudi Arabia does this sword stuff, but it's not really